Hello everyone. Good evening. Can you hear me? Hello, good evening. Please, can someone confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to class. Welcome to week two of the GIPSy Mentorship and Internship Program 2026. We are glad to have you all in this session today. So we will be discussing data processing, collection, and transfer. Data collection, processing, and transfer, and we'll be starting now. So just to quickly introduce our mentors that will be in the session today, we have firstly Mrs. Shadisola Esson. She was in the class in the last class, so I will not be reading through her profile. Thank you so much, Ms. Shadisola. I don't think she's yet on the call, but hopefully she gets to join us very soon. Next in class, okay, we have Mr. Emmanuel Iwere. Mr. Emmanuel is already in the session. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in. We are happy to have you in the session. Mr. Emmanuel is a legal professional and compliance specialist with a strong background in information technology law, regulatory compliance, sustainability, and data protection. He holds a Master's of Law in Information Technology Law from the University of Tartu, Estonia, and a Master of Business from York St. John's University, United Kingdom, called to the Nigerian bar. Emmanuel has extensive experience in advising clients on corporate governance, contracts law, and compliance frameworks, particularly in the area of GDPR and NDPR data protection law. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in. We are happy to have you in the session. Okay, so we are supposed to have Mrs. Mercy C. Matthew, but unfortunately, she's going to be indisposed today. She's not feeling too well. So hopefully, we'll be having just Mr. Emmanuel and she's able to join in. But for now, right, like I said, our topic for today is data collection, processing, and transfer. We'll be discussing best practices, type of data, and sensitivity level, the concept of data minimization, lawful basis for data processing, lawful data transfer, and international data transfer. So not to waste any further time, so that we just get straight to the session and try and see how we can finish class in a good time. I would like to give the floor to our mentor, Mr. Emmanuel Iwere, for his discourse into the topic for today, and then subsequently we'll move on to Mentee's presentation. So, Mr. Emmanuel, you're welcome, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me as well. And it's always great to catch up with you. And I must give you great credit for the good work that you have been doing so far with the mentees. And you're not just impacting, but you're setting the stage for a greater tomorrow. Just know that your mark and everything you're doing is part of a great legacy that will speak tomorrow. And looking at today's topic, I would just like to give an overview about this. Then I'll make sure I give a charge to the house to understand exactly what you're putting your hands into. And I will just keep my focus on Nigeria because yes, we're focused on the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation 2019 and also the Data Protection Act of 2023. So as you all know that our government, not just our government, the Nigerian system is working very hard to have a digital economy, regardless of how there have been a lot of sabotage, political sabotage, and the rest. But there is great effort to have a digital economy and a financial institution that is very that is compliant to international best practices. Apart from even financial institutions, we also have telecom companies and online platforms. that are engaged in the collection and procession of vast amounts of data. And now these people that collect data, they are not just collecting personal data, they also collect the special category data, also known as the sensitive data, for their transactional process. Now, this expansion has given rise to the issue of privacy and data security. Also, it has given rise to questions such as regulatory compliance. So when we're talking about regulatory compliance, what are we looking at? We're looking at the ethical use of data. And when we're looking at the ethical use of data, we're looking at what laws are applicable to these institutions that collect and process data. So let's look at this issue deeply. From your first class, you have that understanding of what data collection is about. But in Nigerian context, we know that our NIMS, NIMC, NIMC, as we generally call it, they are actually like they actually that body that should I say that supports this oversight of data collection, they are part of the bodies that support these, but I see a lot of their regulations that actually check and safeguard these bodies like telecommunication. When let me give an example like SIM registration, where a lot goes on behind the scene, like the security use of your data and the surveillance and their commercial motives. Then we look at banking, fintechs, e-commerce. A lot of Nigerians now, we all have OPay and MoneyPoint. In fact, so we have this tie with the fintech directly or indirectly. If you're not using OPay, you're sending money to OPay. So in one way or the other, you are actually sharing your data with fintechs. Not just fintechs, we have e-commerce platforms as well, Jumia and the rest. Almost all of us will buy things online right now. So we're sharing data. And a lot of government agencies, not just government agencies, numerous agencies in Nigeria and organizations, they collect personal information in which they process. But the issue here is how do they collect this data? How do they store this data? How do they use this data? And how do they transfer this data? Are this process well secured? This is what we will look into in the process of our analysis today. So, looking at the collection process and the processing. Let me start with the processing. Data processing in Nigeria includes the collection, recording, organization, storage, adaptation, retrieval, use, disclosure, and deletion of personal data. Now, this is applicable in both the private and the public sector. And as we all know, that organizations use this data to deliver services such as identity verification for telecom, mobile communication, fintech, financial transaction. We even have this credit scoring method right now. I remember someone that he was saying something like, "Oh, I want to take a loan. I want to take loan from an online platform, but they're saying that I don't have enough credit score." I was surprised to hear that that Nigerian that a Nigerian organization is actually implementing credit scoring. Interesting. So we also have social media services, then e-government platform. Right now, I know that your voters card registration has gone electronically, and a lot of other government processes have gone digital as well. So all these things I have listed, I want you to know that the Nigerian Data Protection Act 2023 and the earlier one that was actually applicable then, the NDPR, actually established key principles that must govern this processing. And we all know that these key principles include lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. We also know that there is a purpose limitation. You must give a purpose. You must tell that data you are collecting must be relevant and must be specific to a particular, excuse me. Then we also know about the concept of data minimization, storage limitation, accuracy, security, and we also have security and integrity. And lastly, very important, accountability. I actually saw your presentations, which captured so much about this, and I just want to use this as like a refresher before we go into your work. So, under these rules, that's from the Nigerian Data Protection Act. Under these rules, data controllers may process personal data only on defined legal basis. And when we talk about legal basis, what exactly is this legal basis about? We're talking about consent. We're talking about contractual necessity. There must be a necessity for that data. We're talking about, there's also a legal obligation. There should be a legal obligation for you to require personal data. Then what else? Protection of vital interests. And also we have the performance of tasks in the public interest. So when we talk about data storage and infrastructure, in Nigeria, data storage uses both local and foreign infrastructure. I know most of us were familiar with cloud system. So when I start talking about information infrastructure and architecture, I just believe that you guys should have a little, but if you don't know, we are today is an interactive section. So we're going to dive so much into all this, and you have that idea and we'll be able to flow better. So just like I said, the Nigerian system uses both local and foreign infrastructure, ranging from on-premises server and also foreign servers. Just like you know, most of our banking, or let me call it commercial data centers, they all operate on cloud services. Then we have many we have many institutions that maintain a central database. Then the regulation back then before that's the NDPA introduced the principle of storage limitation, which requires that personal data must not be retained longer than when necessary. Or let me put it this way: personal data must not be retained longer than necessary for its specific purpose. Now, this is obliging organizations to adopt appropriate technical and organizational safeguard to ensure CIA. When I say CIA, I'm talking about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These are the three elements of information technology. So therefore, If you are a compliance personnel like me, you should know that when it has to do with data collection, storage, use, and transfer, compliance also requires measures such as access control, encryption, backup, incident response plan, and also we could have secure disposal of data when the retention period expires. So we've talked about data storage and infrastructure in Nigeria. We've talked about data processing practice in Nigeria as well. And we've talked about the legal and institutional framework. What are the challenges and prospects of this system so far? Now, I want you to know that despite the robust legal framework we have in Nigeria, we have a lot of things in theory. Data processing, collection, and storage in Nigeria faces a lot of challenges, such as inadequate infrastructure. Then the worst one is unreliable power supply. And we have limited technical capacity. That is why you're under training right now, so that you can boost the technical capacity. And what else again? We have a yeah, our database is fragmented. So another thing that I would like you to know is that overlapping mandates across agencies in Nigeria and the historical proliferation of unharmonized database have created inefficiency. This has also increased costs, and it has elevated the risks of inconsistency when it has to do with privacy safeguard. However, when we look at the consolidation of these laws in the NDPA, now the establishment of a dedicated data protection commission and the ongoing efforts to harmonize identity and other core database, this has provided an opportunity to create a more coherent, secure, and a better data environment in Nigeria. And if we can implement this successfully, perfectly, trust me, the system will work well. And how would the system work well? We have to improve public awareness and also ensure that we don't just play politics with data. We play compliance with data. I would like to stop here and hand over the baton to the other mentor, which I know would do justice and do very well in this. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel. Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel, for sharing your thoughts with us today in the session today. I'm sure that when or after the presentation from the other mentor and then the discourse from the mentees, we'll be able to revert back to you for some of your additional thoughts in this session. So thank you so much once again, Mr. Emmanuel. I can see our other mentor for today's class, Mrs. Jadisola, on the call. Thank you so much, Mark, for being here. We just want to quickly also hear from you, share your thoughts on the topic for today, data collection, processing, and transfer. Would work maybe in the next 20 minutes, and then we'd head to the mentees presentation for joining, and we are happy to have you in class.
Good evening, everyone. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm sure Mr. Emmanuel did justice to the topic. I joined a little late, and so he was already speaking. So I know the topic for today is data collection, processing, and transfer. Generally speaking, to the best practices, types of data, sensitivity level, the concept of data minimization, lawful basis for processing data, and cross-border transfer. So, from what you know, you are aware that most times when I talk or when I take this class, I try as much as possible to be as practical as possible, because just like Mr. Emmanuel alluded to, one of the plagues that how do they make that statement, that affects Nigeria is the fact that we have something documented and we have us doing something completely different. So in this session, I'll just briefly speak on how personal data should be collected, processed, and transferred, whether within Nigeria or out of Nigeria, in compliance with the extant laws. If I speak to something Mr. Emmanuel already spoke to, I apologize in advance. I'm sorry, but I'm sure you'll learn from it. So, data collection generally is the process of gathering personal information from data subjects for a specific purpose. What is important in this case is what I had just mentioned, for a specific purpose. So there must be a reason behind why a data processor or a data controller is collecting data. It must be for a specific purpose, and this purpose must be the data subjects must be aware of this purpose, and while processing the data controller or the data processor must abide strictly with the specific reasons for which the data has been collected. So for instance, I want to open an account with a one of these websites for shopping, and so the reason why I had put my information is just so that they can deliver my product to me, right? And all of a sudden I'm seeing that they now have a bag, they now have a pot, they now have different things for sale. The reason why I had given them my contact information is for the dispatch rider to be able to reach me when he wants to deliver goods to me, and not for them to not for commercial purposes, right? I filled out a form, right, because I'm applying for a job, right? The reason why I filled out that form is so that the organization, the potential employer, is able to determine whether or not I am eligible to be an employee in that organization. I don't expect to be seeing different things to be seeing or receiving emails, information, text messages from them for things different from the reason why I have filled that form. Notorious on this list of processing data for things different from why we give them the information is the NBA. So, best practices for data collection. Under the Nigerian Data Protection Act, organizations must ensure that they collect data for specific purposes, which is what I already mentioned. I already also mentioned that data subjects must be informed about what their data is going to be used for. Consent must be obtained, and the consent must be expressed and fully given. So it should not be consent that even the data subject does not know that they are giving consent for such data processing. Data minimization. This speaks to collecting just what you need, right? And we would see that if you tried opening an account like some 10 years ago, you would find that it's different from what you have now. Some 10-15 years ago, when you want to open an account, you most likely have like a 2-page document where they are requesting for the first crush of your great grandmother, right? But things are reduced now because financial institutions, who have been one of the greatest scapegoats of the NDPC, has learned to only collect the relevant information that they need to be able to manage your account. So I have spoken generally to data minimization. I don't want to talk too much because I've read your slides and I think I noticed that you guys had spoken to that. If it is not adequate, I'll take it after your presentation. So personal data can be grouped according to their sensitivity. Personal data, this refers generally to information that can be used to identify an individually. Personal identifiers, such as your name, your phone number, your email address, your residential address, and all sorts, which is the reason why I have a problem with the front desk for church programs and all those other things where you are required to fill your name, your phone number, your email address, and that information is just there for anybody to pick it up and be able to trace you down to your house. Sensitive personal data, this refers to just like it sounds, just like the name implies, rather, data that is sensitive and requires much more protection because of the nature of the data. Health records, biometric data, religious beliefs, political opinions, sexual orientation, etc. Right. So what else can I speak to? I've already spoken to data minimization. Yes, lawful basis for data processing. Under the act specifically mentions the lawful basis for processing data. I'm not looking at the act now, but from residual knowledge, I know one of the paramount is consent, right? I have already spoken to consent. Legal obligation. This is when you are processing data just to comply with a legal requirement. For instance, you want to onboard with any financial institution, you need a means of ID, a federal means of ID. Vital interest. This is when you're processing data to protect someone's life or safety. So, for instance, somebody who has had an accident, they have a card in their wallet, or you have information about their medical background to say that a particular type of injection will react badly when it enters their system. You can share that information because it is necessary to protect their life. Public interest, when there is a need to process data for and it is in the interest of the general public, right? Those are one of the legitimate grounds for processing data. And the big umbrella that everybody always hides under, legitimate interest. This is where processing is necessary for legitimate purposes, right? As long as it does not infringe on the individual's rights. I'm hoping that this is data minimization, legitimate interest. These are some of the things that I'm going to be looking out for in your presentation. Data transfer. Generally, data transfer occurs when personal data is shared with another organization, another individual, another country, another service provider, just different from the data controller whom the data subject has provided is data. For transfer to be lawful, it is important that data controllers make sure that the recipient has adequate data protection measures. There is security for the transfer. There is security for the data when it is transferred. There is security for the data when it is received on the other end. There is consent. The owner of the data is aware that his data is going to be transferred to another cross-border transfer. For instance, you are aware that you are moving this information to, for instance, now let's say let's use financial institution. That is the sector I'm comfortable with. If you have been on this training long enough, you will know that. So you want to do onboarding generally, right? The data controller in this case is the bank that has obtained the information, but we have retained ABC agency to help us do KYC confirmation. Now we need to be able to do the KYC confirmation because that is what the regulation for that particular sector provides. We have onboarded ABC agents to help us to use the information you have provided to confirm your KYC, to confirm your address, right? That is one of the ways by which a data controller can, share information with a third party, and you would find, if you take time to read your onboarding forms and all that, you will see that they have actually stated it there that to comply with the rules we may need to share with XYZ. But the thing is, the terms and condition is made into such tiny print so that everybody is discouraged. And I can bet it, not a lot of us actually read the terms and conditions, whether on websites or even on a form, because the print is not generally made to not encourage you to read. Some really, responsible data handling starts from collection, right? How you process it, and even how the data is stored, how it is transferred, how it is handled, and all that. So I look forward to seeing your presentations. I will speak more if there's anything I think you have missed. Right. Thank you very much.
Hello. Thank you so much, Ma, for sharing your thoughts with us. We really did enjoy, even though in a very short period of time, we were able to really cover so much as regards the topic. So thank you so much, Ma. We really do appreciate. So yeah, in 30 minutes, both our mentors have done a quick introduction and an overview into the topic for today, data collection, processing, and transfer. They talked about the best practice, the sensitivity level, data minimization, lawful data transfer. They've done all that, right? So we want to hear from the mentees, based off of your research, what you have done in your findings, and then we want to listen to you. We'll get back to the mentors to give feedback once you are done. So not to waste any time, Group One, if you are with us, please we'll be taking your presentation now. All right, we'll be taking presentation from Group One now. So presenter for Group One, please, you can kindly share your slides. If you need help sharing your slides, let me know, so that I can do that on your behalf.
Good evening, sir. Please, I
Yes,
think I'm going to
please,
need a
Chike.
little help sharing the slides. Good evening.
All right. So give me 1 minute,
Thank you very much.
and then give me 1 minute, and then please let me know when you want to move to the next slide
Okay, thank you.
during the presentation. But I'll be opening it shortly. Okay, so I guess you can see my screen now, right?
Yes, I can.
Yes, so please go ahead.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bemisola Latunji. I'm presenting on behalf of Group 1, and our topic is data collection, processing, and transfer. We're looking at the best practices, types of data, and sensitivity level, and the concepts of data minimization. And then as a way of introduction, I think our mentors have done a very wonderful job. And I've said almost everything we have to present. On. So I'm just going to kind of do a recap, yeah, and then just explain to the best of my understanding. So as a way of introduction, when we're talking about data collection, processing, and transfer, as our mentors have established, a lot of organizations they take our data through maybe surveys, we fill forms, and there are even some indirect means of also getting our data, probably the existing database that they have. So one way or the other, our data is getting to places where we don't even know and being used for things that we are not sure about. Because when we put down those names, those addresses, emails, we don't ask, oh, what is this being used for? Most times we are not even sensitive. I guess this class now has opened our like understanding to the sensitivity of our data and how we should guard them jealously. So we see that organizations they collect and use our data to provide better service to their customers. But we see that when they are not properly stored, it can result to a violation of privacy, of our right of privacy, because you see that it gets leaked and then people are able to access it. People that are not supposed to see some sensitive data are able to get access to it, as our mentors have said earlier. And now we have laws that we've already treated in the former class that are responsible for data collection, processes, transfer. They regulate all these processes. Yeah, so data collection is the process of gathering, is the stage where the raw information is gathered and then transformed into useful insights that they can use to do whatever it is that they are collecting those data for. And since that data collection must be lawful, transparent, and collected for a specific purpose, so you have the right to reject or to refuse to give your data to maybe an organization or somebody that is just maybe taking a survey or things like that, and you're asking what purpose does this want to serve? What are you going to use it for? Who is going to be able to access this? If they are not able to answer those questions, you have the right to not give them your data, because of course it's your property. Let me put it that way. So you can see types of data here. There's qualitative data, there's quantitative data, there's structured data, unstructured data, discrete data, continuous data, primary and secondary data. So structure, I mean, for structured data, you can see that they are organized. Some, I think a lot of them, we use Excel, we use SQL databases, and then a lot of other software platforms that we use right now. And then unstructured data could be, I think, as the name implies, it's not structured. Probably from social media, from videos that you post online, different things. You can see your data is everywhere. And with the rates at which people use social media these days, they put everything about them on there, not knowing that a lot of people can, access it and even use that to do some tracking. And you can see discrete data, continuous data, primary, secondary data. I think I kind of explained this primary and secondary data. There are some that are gotten directly, and there are some data that are gotten indirectly from databases. Let's go to the next slide. Data sensitivity levels. So we are talking about data sensitivity levels, like our mentor has explained earlier. There are some that are extremely sensitive that might have a lot of, will I say, consequences, or maybe do harm or something if it's known to the general public. And there are some that might not be as sensitive as others. So here we're seeing there's public data, there's government publications, public statistics and reports, information published on official website. Those are public data. Everyone has access to them, and they can be openly disclosed to the public without causing harm to individuals, to organizations, and of course, they require low protection levels. And then internal data is just for a an organization, is a data that should not go outside of an organization, of a body. It's internal. So when I talk about internal data, I think that is self-explanatory. It's not intended for general public access, as we mentioned in our presentation. It said they require moderate to high protection within the organization. They should not go outside because it's internal data. And then we see personal data. Those are data that are peculiar to us as a person: name, email address, phone number, and they require lawful processing, transparency, and protection against unauthorized disclosure. So I think this class has informed us that whenever our personal data is being taken, probably we are filling a form online, all those privacy, what do they call it? Those are privacy laws and things that they put there. We should ensure that we try to read it. Even I myself, I do not, but I think I will start to do that. I think I read one yesterday to know what they are going to do with this data, how they are going to process it. Yes, these are personal data, so we should be guiding those. Then sensitive personal data. We see health records, biometrics. I think this is something our mentor just mentioned. Then confidential data, financial details, NIN, BVN. This is not a kind of data that should be made available to the public. You see, it says public data, it does they have low protection, like low protection because they don't have a lot of consequences. They are just there for the for the for the public to see. But sensitive data, confidential data is something that must be protected. And then it says sensitive and confidential data, yeah, require stronger protection and security measures with restricted access to its usage, sorry, as it should be. And then we are talking about data processing. It involves the collecting, storing, analyzing, recording, or sharing personal data. And then it says it's basically any operation performed on data. So the data has been collected, but it has to go through a process whereby they probably extract what they need from it or store it in a place, analyze the data, probably to carry out some, surveys and things like that. And so it's saying organizations must ensure data accuracy and security. Security, especially when you are dealing with sensitive data, when you are dealing with confidential data. Let's go to the next slide talking about data transfer. And it says it occurs when personal data is shared between systems, departments, or countries, and it could be from a data controller to a processor or to a third party. And I think this is, yes, some disclosure whenever you are giving your data, they will say that this can be shared with a third party, and you should maybe opt in or opt out if you want that to happen and stuff like that. Or especially maybe you are applying for something, let's say for a scholarship, because I've applied for a scholarship where they are saying this can be shared with a third party. And then I wonder like which third party. So there are things that we have to consider, that the data that we are providing can be transferred, and then transfers must be secured and authorized. So you cannot just transfer data without any authorization. That would be like a breach of people's privacy, of people's, yes, privacy rights. And then it says the recipient must have the same security standard as the sender. So if you as the sender is protecting this data, you are securing this data, you will not transfer it to a third party that is not going to give it the same protection that you are giving it, because data is very sensitive and is belonging to different people and must be handled with, should I say, respect, with a sense of responsibility. Yes. So if it's being transferred, we have to ensure that both the transferor and the transferee, let me use that English, must have the same security standard. And then, okay, there's a case here. I'm so sorry, but I don't know what's happened to this case. So it said the data transfer trails must be properly documented. So you must keep record. This went from party A to party B on so day. You transfer this data to this data, and then keep records that when it's time to be accountable, one will be able to give accounts for the data that is going in and out of the database. So we'll go to data minimization. So it implies that only data that is necessary should be collected, only data that is necessary for a specific purpose. So we don't want to collect a lot of data that you don't even need, and you just maybe discard them and not treat them as securely as you would treat others that you need. So when we're talking about data minimization, is just the concept is illustrating that you should not take more than you need. Organizations should not take more data than they need. Just take the ones that you need for a specific purpose. So it says if you don't need a data to perform a service, don't collect it. There's an example here, that online store asking only for delivery address and phone numbers instead of unnecessary personal details. Of course, if you buy something online and then they want to deliver, they will surely ask for maybe your address, phone number. Then they will not be asking for your genotype or your blood group or what is your occupation. That is unnecessary data. So that is what data minimization is talking about. And it says it reduces the total volume of data collected and stored, and it cuts down the risk and potential damage that could come from the inad oh my god, English. Inadvertent exposure of data. So let's go to the next one. Best practices for data protection. So these are just best practices. Like I said, they are just I don't want to put principles, but what we should follow, best practices that every person involved in data collection, in the whole data processing stage should follow. Collect, regularly review store data and delete unnecessary records. So these are best practices. You should not just store data and then when we are talking about data minimization, this also comes into play. Delete unnecessary records. If you have a to prevent it from unnecessary exposure, train employees on data protection responsibilities, ensure that the recipient of a data transfer has the same security standards as the host. Yes, I think I spoke about that earlier. And then these are a few cases on data processing. Um, so let me just conclude now. So it's saying our topic that we've been talking about has been data collection, processing, and transfer, talking about the best practices, types of data sensitivity level, data minimization. So we've looked at the best practices. That is to collect data that you need, obtain consent when it's required, and ensure that the recipients, when you are talking about data transfer, the recipients should have the same security standard as the transferor. Talking about types of data, you see there is public data, there is sensitive data, there's confidential data, just as a way of recap, and then data minimization, making sure that you don't have an overload of data that maybe you out of 100% you have 70% data that you don't really need while you take 30. So data minimization is talking about collecting only the data that is necessary for a specific purpose. And then I think this is very key, especially in the world that we are today. AI, artificial intelligence, everybody's collecting data everywhere, and you are wondering what is this being used for? What are they doing with this? So just to conclude, saying that privacy is not a one-time setup, it is a continuous cycle of minimizing risk and maximizing transparency. So we are talking about privacy and we're talking about data protection. It's not something that maybe you just do at once. Maybe you create somebody's data and then you just put it somewhere. You have to continuously see that you go and review the data that you've collected, check for the security of that data, check whether it's properly protected with the encryption and access control, check the authorization, who has access to it, and then to delete unnecessary records. So we're talking about privacy, something that is a continuous cycle of these things that I've mentioned, the checks, the um data minimization, that's checking for the data that you need, data you don't need, and doing away with those unnecessary data. And of course, even when you want to say, oh, you have to delete unnecessary data, you still have to make it secure. And then don't just expose it to different kind of persons that can use that data for something that is not lawful. So we're talking about responsible data handling protects individuals and organizations, especially when it comes to sensitive data and confidential data. We have to handle those data responsibly. Following data protection principles build trust and ensures legal compliance. Data minimization and secure processing are key to So this is just a conclusion, and I think I like this last part where it says data subjects have the right to be forgotten. So a person can say, no, I don't want you to have my data, or can you delete this record, especially when it's sensitive, when it's confidential, or it can even just be personal data for personal reasons. So they have the right to choose not to, provide their data or tell you to delete their data or stuff like that. It says they have the right to be forgotten. I know the age that we are now, you say that you leave traces everywhere, the internet does not forget, and different things like that. But then when you are talking about data protection, privacy, data subjects do have the right to be forgotten. Thank you very much. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Grace, for handling that presentation. Grace is the backup presenter, is a backup presenter for the class, so she steps in impromptu to make the presentation for the group. So please, can we have the group presenter for group two? Please, let's try to stick with time, right, so that we don't overshoot on our presentation time. So please, as you can for group two presenter, if you can stick within the 10 minutes time frame, we really appreciate. So over to you, group two. Hello, Mr. Richard, we can't hear you.
Hello, Richard, please, can you hear us? I see that you are unmuted, but we can't hear anything. Okay, if Richard is not available to make presentation on behalf of the group, can we have one of the backups step in to make presentations so that we don't waste any time? Don't we have any member from group two that can step in to make presentation on behalf of the group?
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Gania Shitu. Can you hear me? Hello, good evening.
Yes, we can hear you, Gania.
Yeah,
Sorry, can you hear me now? I was having network issues.
okay, I think he's back.
Can you hear me now? I was
Okay,
having
Mr.
network
Richard, we can
issues.
hear you
Sorry.
now.
Okay. Okay, I'll need help with the sharing of the slides.
All right, give me a minute to set it up.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for the delay. I was having network issues.
Hope you can see my screen now.
Yes, I can. Clearly.
All right, please go ahead.
Okay. Good day, everyone. My name is Richard, and I'm representing Group 2. So this presentation examines data processing and international data transfer within the Nigerian Protection Framework. And the Nigerian Data Protection Act, NDPA 2023, provides the legal framework for the collection, processing, and transfer of personal data within and outside Nigeria. So the presentation will be examining the meaning of data processing, the stages involved in processing data, lawful basis for processing data, and rules and framework and cases along the line. So we'll start by defining what data processing is. Data processing is the process of gathering, changing, and organizing raw data into useful information that can easily be understood. So it basically has to do with the transformation of data into different formats, which can be graphical, which can be in form of documents, reports, and databases. You can move on to the next slide. Okay, so processing of data goes through different stages. So the first stage is data collection. This is the stage where information is obtained from individuals, and this can be done by filling online forms, by providing personal data to bank, hospital, or churches, or registration for certain services. Then the second stage is data preparation, where the data that has been collected are organized, cleaned, or verified to ensure accuracy. Then the third stage is data input. This is where data is entered into digital systems such as databases, applications, cloud storage platforms. Then the next stage is data processing. This is the stage where the data is analyzed for further usage, which can be used for statistical analysis by researchers or
This one's like like juicers.
or to get credit scores of individuals from bank.
How much are they?
Then the final stage, data output or storage, which is where data is processed into information that might be presented in form of reports, dashboards, and so forth, or it will just be stored for future use. So you can move on to the next slide. Okay, so now this we'll take a look at the Nigerian regulatory framework. And as stated earlier, the principal legal instrument governing data protection in Nigeria is the Nigerian Data Protection Act 2023. And the act establishes the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, NDPC, as the authority responsible for regulating data protection and ensuring compliance. So through the act, it provides the principles governing personal data processing, lawful basis for processing. It also states the obligation of data controllers and processors. It also states the rights of data subjects and also provides restriction on cross-border transfer. Then it's also worthy of note to state that there's a general application and implementation directive, GAID, which has been issued by NDPC to provide guidelines on how organizations should comply with the obligations listed above. So you can move on to the next slide. So now we're taking a look into the international data transfer in Nigeria and the framework. But we have to understand what international data transfer is. So international data transfer occurs when personal data is moved from Nigeria to another country. So this can happen when organizations rely on foreign servers, cloud system, or when there's a sharing of employee data online through foreign data centers. So this international/cross-border transfer creates certain risk, which the Nigerian Data Protection Act tries to mitigate. So under Section 41 to 43, there are certain safeguards that are put in place by the Act, which provides that the receiving country must have adequate data protection laws, and there must also be a form of that the recipient, that the other country should have a bond, a contractual bond, or a certification mechanism that ensures protection of data, of Nigerian data, thereabout. So all these safeguards ensure that the rights of Nigerian data subjects remain protected even when their data moves across borders. Okay, we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so yeah, we're going to look at cases that show how regulators enforce the compliance, particularly as it relates to cross-border data transfers, consent, and corporate accountability. So in the case of Ikegai Innovation Initiative versus NIDA, in the case NIDA was challenged over the list of countries approved for international data transfers. So the key issue in that case was that certain countries listed did not have adequate data protection, which raised concerns of safety in regards to Nigerian personal data. So the decision of the courts ruled that countries without sufficient data protection laws cannot be approved for data transfer. So this still highlights to the previous statement made earlier. So this case highlights that even regulatory decisions can be challenged if they undermine data protection standards. So the safeguarding data is paramount and is important. So we can also look at the case of Meta Platform versus C, Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC. Then we can also look at the NDPC versus MultiChoice, where the key issue was that MultiChoice transferred large amounts of Nigerian users' data without following legal requirements for international data transfers, which has to do with consent and thereabouts. And they were fined, and the NDPC imposed a fine to the tune of 766.2 million naira. Okay, so you can move on to the next slide. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, we're looking at the lawful basis for processing personal data. As stated earlier, the key principle law regulating such is in Nigeria is the NDPA. Then also there's the General Data Protection regulations, which provides similar legal basis for processing personal data, which are listed as consent. So processing is lawful where the data subject has given explicit and informed consent. So consent is important. Then also contractual necessity. So the data may be processed where it is necessary to perform a contract with the individual. It can be seen in banker customer relationship. Then other lawful bases are legal obligations, vital interests, public interests, and legitimate interests. Okay, we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so yeah, we're going to look into briefly several Nigerian court decisions which have reinforced the importance of lawful data processing. So we can look at the case of
Richard, are you with us?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead. I hear you.
Okay. So we can look at the case of Babalola and Sokolon. So this case involved a digital loan platform accused of misusing borrowers' personal data and contacting individuals in their contact list. So based on that case, they stated that organization must have a lawful basis before processing personal data in fintech or digital lending platforms. Then we can also look at the case of Steve Lee versus Access Bank. So the case emphasized the importance of protecting data within financial institutions and reinforced the need for confidential handling of customers' information. So the significance of the case is that data controllers must ensure lawful grounds before sharing any form of personal data with third party. So together, these cases show that Nigerian courts are increasingly recognizing privacy and data protection as enforceable legal rights. So we can move on to the next. We can move on to the next slide. Okay, conclusively, it can be seen that data processing and international data transfer are central issues in the digital economy. So by virtue of the Nigerian Data Protection Act, it provides adequate framework to ensure that personal data is processed lawfully, fairly, and also it is enforceable based on the cases already stated above. Thank you.
Sorry, are you done with your presentation? Sorry, I didn't get the last thing you said.
Yes, I am. I'm done.
Oh,
yes,
all
I'm
right.
done. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Richard, for helping to run through your presentation on behalf of your group. Well done to you and to your team for putting it together. We would be heading back to the mentors for their feedback. I think we have two mentors with us that will be sharing their feedback. I think we still have Mr. Iwere and Mrs. Jadisola with us. All right, so reversing back to the top, Mr. Iwere, please, I would like to get your feedback on the presentation and anything you would like to share, still in relation with the topic for today, and just overall your basic highlights.
Okay, thank you once again, and well done to both groups. The presentation was fair, and the slides as well very rich. Nevertheless, I'll still say that group 2, there's more to be done from your side because you have an excellent slide, but there's no flavor, there's no spices like to what you have. It's just like the Nigerian system having a robust law in theory, but we have like a shaky dancing implementation. But we're going to dive into this now so that we can make some sense out of what you have actually presented, and to ensure that at the end of the day, it's not just in paper, but we know it. When we hear it, we can actually make out something out of data processing, storage, and transfer. So let us have some little touch on this. So group 2 and group 1, this is for you actually. So I'm not restricting these whole questions to group 2 alone. When is vital interest required? Hi guys, we should interact now, please. This is actually the opportunity for you to be able to demonstrate what you have learned from group stage now to the main stage. So guys, let's interact, okay? You can unmute your mic. You can unmute your mic so we can start interacting. And I want you to know that students that are active, mentees that are active, and definitely we will form a very strong bond and relationship after now. So
Good
let
day.
us, Richard, thank you.
Okay, based on my little understanding of the concepts thus far, I think vital interest arises when in certain instances, I can just state them, where there's a life or physical safety risk, or when consent cannot be obtained by the individual by which data are emanated from, or when there's a need to prevent serious harm to an organization or an individual or society at large. That's when vital interest arises, based on my understanding.
You're close. Good contribution. You are close, but I want somebody else to give us I want somebody else to hit that nail on the head. Like,
Hello, sir.
okay, who is talking? Bemi Sola. Good,
Bemi
great.
Sola,
Tell
yes,
us.
great.
Beautiful
Okay,
name.
thank you. I think what I want to say is similar, but I'm not sure if I'm going to eat it like you asked. So you said when is vital interest required, and I think is typically like when there's an emergency, like or life or death situation, where the person is incapable at that moment of giving consent. Then someone with vital interest, like let's say a person is taken to an emergency room and then they need a parent to sign or a family member or a relative. Yes, so I think that would be when a vital interest is required. And I think it's mostly deals with sensitive and confidential data. Yes, that's my contribution.
Yes, now we're dancing to the very good, Bemi Sola. Brilliant. So, who can give us another example of when a controller can say this data is required for vital interest? Somebody give us a very strong example. Now we need examples, practical examples. Hi guys, let's interact, please. Thank you, Bemi Sola. Thank you, Richard. Who next, please?
Sir, can I try again?
Yes.
Okay. You said when a controller can actually ask, can say a data is needed for vital interest. Okay. I think the only scenario that is coming to mind is maybe when there's a should I say national interest involved, something that relates to, let's say, the country. Maybe there's some emergency when you're talking about something that can has it that has a relation with maybe treason, or I'm not sure if this is making sense.
Just try. You're doing well.
Okay. So I think a controller can actually say they need an information when they are dealing with maybe cases of maybe it has to do with crime, maybe it has to do with protection of, shall I say, government interest. I think it would be something that has to do with national interest or something. That's what I think.
Well done. Like, you've done well so far from your first and second contribution. Very well done, Bemi Sola. Grace. So let me just sum up on this so that we can touch another one. Now I want you to understand something. I'll use an example. Just imagine that there is a serious accident on the road, and this data subject is wounded, scattered, and battered. Do you think that person is in the right stage to offer consent to data at that moment? I want to hear answers. We should be interacting now, please. Do you think that person is in the right state of mind to give consent at that moment?
No.
Very
Yes,
good.
sir.
So in that instance, there is a need for an emergency medical solution for that person. And for there to be that emergency legal, medical services, they will need to process the data of that patient. What would they do? Now, they will need to ask the hospital. Now, let's assume the hospital now will not just need access, but they will need to share the person's medical record, even the contact. In fact, they'll share a lot, maybe sensitive, personal data. They're going to send, they're going to share and use. But on what basis now can they rely on to use this data without the consent of the data subject? That is what gives birth to vital interest. There is a vital interest on ground for this course, for this processing to happen. With this example, trust me, you cannot forget the need for vital interest. The next question is, when can a controller rely on legitimate interest? Who can help? I need another someone from group 1. Richard is in group 2. Grace, you're in group what?
Group 1, sir.
Okay, group 1, group 2. So this question is for group 1 and group 2. When can a controller rely on legitimate interest?
Please, members of the group, please let's participate. Let's respond. Right. The class is supposed to be interactive, so please let's respond well.
Remember, you did all this in your presentation. It is clearly written in your presentation. Don't make us believe that you are operating like the Nigerian system, that they have a very robust law on ground, but we are seeing very poor implementation. We want to see practical demonstration. Come on, let us interact. When should a controller invoke the use of legitimate interests? Think of, you can even give examples, because examples are actually they're much more explanatory. So if you have an example, share with us. No trial is bad. Just keep trying. Let's interact.
Hello, sir.
Good job. Bemisola, great again. Good girl. Oh, this is getting
Okay.
interesting with you.
Because I think that legitimate interest now would be probably somebody comes asking for a particular data that might not even have any relationship with the data subject. as opposed to the person of vital interest that we spoke about. But when you're saying when he has legitimate interest, let's say for example, is to prevent fraud, and somebody believes a person is carrying out a fraudulent activity, or maybe his account, or maybe it's an organization or stuff like that, and then he goes to ask for that person's data. If he can give the evidence that the person, the data subject, how do I put it in English? The person's data that is asking for, probably they want to use it to carry out some investigation or something that is going to anyway have a great consequence on him or help him to solve a particular problem, and then it can give an evidence that this person is related or must be how will I put it in English. Anyway, the person must be related to the issue on ground. Let's say if it's fraud prevention or maybe investigation, and you believe that this person is somehow tied to the situation on ground, then I think that can form a legitimate interest.
Brilliant. This lady is brilliant.
Okay.
Like you
Good
have
answer.
nailed this example. Oh, Richard, very good. Very good. We have another strong man. Tell us.
Okay, so based on my limited knowledge, so legitimate interest arises when the controller or maybe like the third party, maybe the data provider, is trying to protect certain interests that are personal to the individual or an organization, but does not infringe on fundamental rights or the data of the data provider or the data provided from an individual. So I can only give like an example to buttress this my points, which by let's say if you're trying to secure someone's personal data, that's a third party. Let's say if organization A is trying to secure, protect, or prevent an attack or whatever on party B on his maybe email. So the company can now process the personal data of the individual by tracking maybe logins and all, because data can come in various forms. And also, maybe when an organization wants to send more marketing communication information to a certain individual, so they can process and track the individual purchases. Let's say the person purchases TVs, more of certain items. So they can process such data to streamline what products and services they will send or advertise to customers. So yeah.
Wow, group one, group two, very good representatives. Like you guys, Richard and Bemisola, you guys are representing very well. Like very strong answer, Richard. Thank you very much for this. You guys should, in fact, they have said the whole thing in a clear form, and I like the examples that both of you shared. Let me make it more practical. Let me make the story really sweet. Now, let me make it a story. Imagine that a customer, has gone to carry out a fraudulent transaction in the bank. He has gone there with the idea of gaining access into another customer's account so as to make fraudulent transactions. Now, in the course of this transaction, the bank will want to dig deep into the whole process. And in order to make the whole environment calm, sweet, and collectible, they don't cause any tension or raise any alarm. They go behind the scene. In that case, they have the legitimate interest to process the data of that person that is trying to carry out such fraudulent activity. They also have the legitimate interest to protect their customer that is about to be scammed. This is a very, very simple, sweet storytelling example. If you don't understand it with this sweet story, now, let me just, because of our time, let me just sum everything up for you people now. I want you to understand something, that the whole goal of the whole buhaha of the whole concept of privacy, data protection that we have been struggling about, learning about, understanding, it's all geared to protect one person, data subject. And in a bid to protect that person, they are putting responsibility on other persons, including controllers, processors, and third parties. So my question to you, the last question I have, do you think that this data subject has an absolute or a privilege right? Who can help me with the answer? And tell me why you think. Do you think a data subject has an absolute or a privilege right?
Yes, I would like to answer.
Oh, Grace, you have won my heart today.
Okay. I think with your explanation of legitimate interest or vital interest, it will be only logical to say it's a privilege right, because we can clearly see that it's not absolute with the instances and the examples that you've given. So I'll say they have data subjects have a privilege right,
Very good.
because
Very
even without their permission, sometimes yes, you can actually get the data you need in the instances that we just looked at few minutes ago.
brilliant. Brilliant. I'm so impressed with you, Bemisola Grace. Who can tell me, lastly, still on this topic of absolute and privilege rights, other examples where the right now that has been bestowed on this person can be waived? Just 2 more examples and we're good.
So I think I would say public interest.
Very good. She took Kenya. Thank you. Thank you very much for this one. This is a very good answer. Public interest. Who else, please? The last one. One more and I can actually rest.
I think the last one would be contractual obligations.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Mhm.
When you have that contractual agreement, when an employee signs that employment contract, then the employer will begin to run some things with his data behind his back, and the employer will now try to rely on the fact that you have a contractual. Okay. Tell us. You want to say something else?
And I think one that will fit most is probably a legal obligation when the law provides that, probably for banking institution now, when the law provides that they should take certain information from their customer. So I think that fits in.
Bless you, Kenya. Very good one for today. Oh, Richard, good. Come in. You are the very strong man in that group too.
Okay. So what comes to mind is national security. So
National
the event that the event that comes to mind is 9/11. So during that occurrence, the government was able to bypass all this right to consent and all that, and sift through information to verify and capture targets, person of interest anyway. So yeah, that's that part. Thank you.
Brilliant contribution and very smart gentleman. Very well done today. You have been very, very effective in this section. Thank you, Richard. Okay, guys. Thank you for today, and this is all from me. I may be running soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us in the class, and giving feedback to the presentation and also engaging our mentees in questions. So, Mrs. Shade Sola, are you still with us? Yes, Mrs. Shade Sola, I can see that you're still with us. Please, now we just want to quickly also get your feedback. Then we'll take questions and call it a day.
Okay, after Mr. Emmanuel's very solid session, I promise you, I don't know what to say or what to add. But what I noticed is group 2, your slides, very appealing, looks nice. But in the process of giving us a fine design, some of your designs were blocking the words. I don't know if you go back to it, maybe don't be carried away by fine slides that we cannot read. Second, I think the part of I've closed the presentation now. The beginning of your presentation that has all the definition, you were giving us more of statistical definition than in this context, I was saying your definition of processing was machine learning algorithms, analyze the data. No, that does not apply in this case because processing does not necessarily have to be electronic or anything. So I think I don't know the document you had used, right? It is probably not data protection oriented, so to speak. Yes, even from your data collection, in the general context of data protection, your definition of all those stages of data processing, it looks more like a definition that would fly in a statistics class rather than a definition for this class. So very well done. The only comment I have about group 1 is the person I was presenting and mentioned a case that the person does not know the facts about. If I had a cane, I would have given you virtual flogging. How can you be presenting and say you don't have the facts of a case? You are giving me the impression that you did not participate in presenting the slides, or you people just use ChatGPT and produced it, or you did not do any form of research. Even if you don't know, if you did not say anything, I promise you I will not have known. Right. So say immediately you said it, I tell you, if I was 80% into your presentation before, it reduced to 20. Because I felt like, what other thing are you saying that you don't know? You are just saying it because it's in there. So next time, please try as much as possible to prepare ahead of the presentation. And even if you have a case of like this, don't say it. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Sadisola, for your contributions. We really, really do appreciate your feedback, and we hope that the mentees are taking note of it. Sorry, my network is fluctuating, so I had to turn off my video. So we'll be taking questions now. Please, mentees, let's take advantage of the opportunity that we have with our mentors and ask questions. Please, if you have a question, we can take questions in the next few minutes, or we'll take our pictures and then we'll call it a day. All right, so please, we'll take questions. If you have a question you'd like to ask, Mr. Emmanuel had to step off the call, but Ms. Jadisola is still here. Let's ask questions and then, we can move on. We will not be long anymore in class. Do we have questions? Do we have questions? I don't want to
Yes,
assume
sir.
that we
Good
when
evening.
I don't know if we did ask question. Okay, please
Good
go ahead
evening.
from your
Can you
side.
hear
You
me,
can ask your
sir?
question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I can hear you.
My
Please ask your question.
Yes, I think my question is to Mrs. Jadisola. I want to hear our opinion on the concept of legitimate interest. Mr. Richard, is it Mr. Richard? The other mentor really explained, but I was a bit confused. The concept of legitimate interest it sounds quite broad. So my question is, does it covers all excuses can probably like a data controller, let's say like a bank now, so far as they have an excuse, can they all say, oh, it's a legitimate interest, or is there some reasons that does not really falls under legitimate interest? I don't know if you understand my questions, ma.
Yes, I do. I understand your question. Let me quickly correct everybody. Again, it is Miss, not Mrs. Miss. Thank you. All right.
I'm
So,
sorry, ma.
no, it's fine. I mean, that's what everybody I should have corrected from the beginning of the class. Okay, your question is, it seems as if legitimate interest is just a broad umbrella that anybody can hide under. Does it cover everything? I'm going to make my definition very short so that you are not confused. And I hope that you can get it. Like I mentioned when I was doing my introduction, everybody, data controllers, data processors, they always like to hide under legitimate interest because it seems as if it can accommodate anything. But the simple definition for processing data under legitimate interest is that it is important for me to process your data this way to achieve the subject of our engagement in the first place. For instance, you have come to open an account in a bank, a commercial bank. Of course, the primary reason is so that you are able to carry out banking activities. Now, banking activities, very broad. But the most basic one is that you are able to do deposits. Now, if I use the information that you have provided to me to do everything possible to make sure that you are able to open an account with my bank and you are able to successfully deposit your funds in that account and you are able to run the account, then I have processed your data using legitimate interest. The test for correct use of legitimate interest is who is the ultimate beneficiary of processing the data in that particular way. If the bank processes your data only to the extent that you are able to carry out banking activities, you benefit. Yes, they benefit in the sense that they have a customer, but the reason why you have approached them in the first place, the reason why you are even brokering a relationship with the bank is so that you are able to carry out banking activities. So if I process your data that way, then I am operating under legitimate interest. Now let's use this popular case for what is your name? Is it Itango? What is it? This Domino's Pizza popular case. Now, or something related. I have given you my information, right? I approached Domino's or I approached a business because I want to buy something. Everybody is now buying online, right? So I have given you my address. I have given you my phone number. I have given you my what other thing do they need to deliver? Name, address, phone number. Fantastic. Maybe the code to my estate. No, that one will not even count. So that you are able to send my delivery. Now, even though we don't particularly sign a contract or there is no consent or there is nothing, I'm not giving you any contract. All of these things is not there, right? But I know that the reason why I've given them that information is so that I am able to get the pair of shoes that I have ordered from Adebisi Bag & Co. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Now, if Adebisi Bag and Co's husband has Bolu Jewelry, for instance, and Bolu Jewelry has just started his business, and he approaches Adebisi, his wife, and say, honey, you have a database of 5,000. I need to be able to market to clients so that people are even aware that I am selling jewelry. How about you give me the phone number, the email address of all the people you have in your clientele? Let me just send them a message saying that just beside Adebisi and Bag and Co is Bolu Jewelry. You can buy your jewelry. You can do. You have gone away from the legitimate purpose of giving you that data. So that's processing your data in such a way, giving your data to Adebolu to Bolu and Co in such a way cannot come under legitimate interest. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, ma. I understand, ma.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So
Yes,
even
ma.
though there is no contract, you have not obtained my consent. Oh, for instance, let's even say that the form that they give you in the bank, it is a contract, and they've already put all these terms in the contract. Let's say tomorrow now, GT Bank, they suspect that we need to do a second level or a third level of end-to-end encryption and security, clinical this and security, clinical that, because we have it on good authority that maybe our system has been compromised and somebody can have access to something. To be able to double down on our security, we need to so process your data in a particular way. I owe you a duty of making sure that your account is protected, and it is not on account of my of my inaction or omission or even action that something happens to your money that you have kept in my bank. In that moment, if I am unable to get consent from you to say we want to send your data to a third party, it's not in our contract. I can do it because I have the legitimate interest of protecting your interests. Like I said, the question you need to ask yourself when you want to determine if legitimate interest will work is who is going to benefit the most from processing my data this way. Simple and short.
Thank you, ma.
Understood?
Yes, ma. Thank you, ma.
All right, thank you very much, Ma, for helping us with that question. For the mentees, do we still have any other question? I think we can still take one more before we draw a curtain on class. Okay, I noticed someone said he has to go for prayers. Thank you so much for staying to this point. All right, so please, do we still have questions so that we can draw it close to it, so that for those who have to leave, so that they can do that. All right, so in the absence of any question, please can we kindly turn on our videos quickly so that we can take a quick screenshots and then call it a day. In the absence of any other question, let's quickly do that. Thank you, Nkuruka. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Omotola. Yes, I can see some of us are turning on our videos. Okay, Mr. Richard. All right, I'm already taking pictures. All right, so we are done.
Yeah, we are done. Thank you very much, everyone. So we've come to the end of today's session. I really hope we all learned something from class and the mentors. Sorry, my background is a bit dark. We all learned something for so much. Ms. Chadisola for helping Manuel in Essential. Right, so yeah, we'll fill in your attendance. Make sure to share what you have learned on your social media platforms. And please do not forget to tag our mentor when you do so. Right, you you can connect with them. You can reach out to them if uh, um, you can. Right, and just make sure to keep learning, keep researching. The tax
Hello, Dennis, you are breaking up. Okay, thank you everyone for joining. I think William's network is bad. So we do appreciate our mentors and mentees for today's session. Do have a lovely night and see you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you.